Now we're recording. Hello, 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 hello. And we are doing a review of Ancestors: A Humankind Odyssey. So now that the first one, this is going to be the first review of this kind, what we're going to start with
Yep.
is gameplay, like how the game plays, obviously, different mechanics, like the evolution mechanics and things like that. Then we'll go into the aesthetic, which will include music, graphics, things like that. Then we'll move into credibility or accuracy, how much the game reflects real life or what we know from the fossil record or the historical record. And the last bit will be thoughts and opinions on what we think could have been changed or just anything that doesn't fit into the previous three categories. Okay, so I think the first really, really, really cool thing about this game is how it represents evolution. Because, like, no other game really has done it like this, where you have traits and then mutations that are random, like in real life, and then you need to basically use the neural energy to unlock different neurons, which in terms with the mutations, allows you to upgrade over generations to become better and better and evolve into the species at the end of the game, which I
Yeah,
think
I,
is.
I think they did that quite well with this layered system. So
Mm,
um when you get a certain feature as an adult, it doesn't mean it would translate automatically into the next
mm.
generation or species.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because like, if you have a member with a mutation and they die, you lose that mutation.
Yeah,
So you really have to focus on breeding because breeding is very important. And also like I think the really also really big selling point is like basically you know nothing at the beginning. You have to learn everything from scratch, which Patrice designed that way because obviously no one was helping the hominids learn how to use stone tools and
mm.
which medicines and things like that, which plants are good medicines. So a lot of that is, I think, also really helps the game, but it's kind of like a blessing and a curse, just because when you have something like that and just people just don't get it, you just start off really. It can really throw people off if you just like in the first 10 hours you keep dying constantly because you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah. I think a lot of people didn't have the
Mm.
patience to really get to the point where you enjoy the game.
You really start enjoying the game, I think, around the first evolution from Sahelanthropus, which is about
Yeah,
Orion. I think that's when you really start enjoying the game because you really get a feel of the mechanics and you at least learn
yeah.
how to make.
Or rather, you start out as an unnamed
Mm,
hypothetical common ancestor of chimps and
mm,
humans, and then you go to Sahelanthropus.
yeah, but the model is still
Um,
Sahelanthropus,
yeah,
which I don't blame
yeah.
him.
It doesn't change much,
Mm,
um, but I think we can talk about this later for the aesthetics and so on.
yeah, this is.
It, it, when it comes to if the game does take if it takes you getting to like the second or third chapter, sort of say, to actually properly
Enjoy it.
enjoy it, that's definitely a mark off. Well, at
Mm,
least when it comes to most people who aren't just looking at this game as like a scientific,
yeah, I definitely agree.
like almost like like some people can you look at this as like sort of a interactive documentary,
Mm,
but from a gameplay standpoint, if it takes that long for you to really enjoy the game, that's you're doing something.
yeah, I
At
think it.
least in my
I
opinion.
think that was also really done. I definitely agree with you. And I think that was also done to really pad out the game time. Because if you look at the second
Yeah.
playthrough I did, it took me a little over 20 hours. And the first play I did, where I basically went in blind and had to figure everything out, that literally what took me like nearly 50 hours. So that just
Yeah.
shows. I feel like because Patrice marketed it as being a 50-hour long game, and I feel like most of that is just because you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Gameplay extenders. That's just
Mm,
padding out your time, like you said.
mm,
It's a cheap way to make people
yeah.
make the story, not really story, the game
Mm,
last longer.
yeah. But at least like the sense of accomplishment you do with discovering a new tool or a new plant or something is really done right and does, if you are really into it, can hook you in and really want to make you progress.
Yeah, I agree. I think a few things could have been done better.
Of
I
course.
don't want a tutorial, but
I think it.
I wouldn't agree
Yeah.
that it's drawn out that much. At least over most parts of the game. The only instance where I really think they could have done a little bit more is endgame, where you
Definitely.
begin to realize, okay, when I do that and that, I get evolution points.
Mm,
But there isn't that much more to do, and so you try every little combination
mm,
of triggering different animals against each other, or killing them with different tools and or stages of that tool,
mm, mm.
Yeah.
and that I think the end game could have been
Yeah.
a little bit more interesting.
I feel like that was definitely a major problem with like the evolutionary feats, because you only get the feat once. So like if I kill a Macarodas once and I get the achievement, there's basically no reason for me to kill another one other than like to protect myself.
Yeah.
So I think like a more normal XP kind of system, like maybe killing a
Yeah.
Macarodontus could have given you like
Although there's
a
also
hundred
the
years or something.
mutation that you can actually digest meat at some point, so you can actually hunt
Mm,
for them.
mm,
But that's rather random when
yeah.
that occurs, or if that occurs.
Mm. But I still think like other than obviously sometimes food, sometimes it's just a lot easier just to eat berries. I never found actually hunting that much was actually worthwhile.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean it makes sense. All the species that
Yeah,
we play through were probably not hunting at all.
definitely.
Maybe
Hey,
scavenging.
hey, Joe, your mic's picking up everything Joshua say.
What was that?
Your mic's picking up all of this, everything we say.
It's a little echo in here sometimes.
It's
Oh,
too
okay.
sensitive. Your mic's sensitive.
I think I'll turn it down. Let me just. Turn it down. How's that?
We'll have to see.
Test,
It's
test.
Test, test.
1, 2, 3.
it's worse, honestly.
Oh, I just turned it down. What the hell?
Maybe go a little bit away from the speakers. Hmm.
Hmm. Ah.
How's that?
So far so good.
Cool.
Yep.
It's better. It's better.
Cool.
Yep.
It's good enough.
Agreed. Let's continue.
Yeah, let's continue. Who was last having their thoughts?
Where were we?
Eating meat.
Eating meat. Yes. Yeah, I think that mechanic works. Also, that you at no point really begin to attack animals, but if you want to kill something, you have to provoke it,
Mm.
and you have to defend yourself.
And you
It
don't have to
should
do that for
change in the
2
next.
hours.
Yeah, it should change in the next game probably. Something that I thought was a little bit weird is that the mutations you get are sometimes a little bit too random.
Mm.
We saw it in your playthrough that you very very late got your bipedal mutation, and you were already Australopithecus.
I was already Africanus, which is like the last one.
Yeah. And I think that should have been structured a little bit more, a little bit less random, so that at some point you will definitely get that mutation. Yeah. I mean, you can provoke it a little, but yeah. I like that you this basically they took epigenetics into account here, that when you do something more, that it will manifest itself in your DNA sometimes.
One thing I did also like is like how plastic the game is with history. Because like you could theoretically, if you already knew how to make stone tools, you could make like one of the best stone tools in the game, like a basalt tool, right at the beginning. And then you could like maybe not learn how to make a sharpened spear right at the end of the game, which I don't know how, but theoretically you could. Because like with this fossil record being so shoddy, we're constantly finding that the dates of certain things are changing. Like with they found a stone tool recently of 3 million years ago that's believed to be made by an Australopithecus, and that's and it just shows how plastic the dates for things like making stone tools or becoming bipedal and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just so plastic.
Also, it depends on populations often, what tools they use, how they make them, and if they will use them. I mean, we can see that in chimpanzees today. There are a few populations that also make stone tools now.
And there's a few that even use sharpened sticks to hunt like bush babies.
Yeah, and others do completely different things.
So a lot of the stuff.
And there's also. Go on.
I would say a lot of the stuff in this game is not overly over the top to what something they could do. Like a lot of this is based on stuff that chimps and other great apes would do today. So I think that's pretty good in terms of gameplay and accuracy.
Yeah.
What were we gonna say, Doc?
It was just kind of adding on to the modern day apes using tools and such. Like there's a group of orangutans in Asia who have watched people use spears to catch fish, and they've started to do that themselves.
That's pretty cool. And even orangutans don't really eat fish.
And these aren't tame. These aren't trained. They've just watched people do it. They're wild orangutans, and they're just doing it.
I think that really feeds into the game a lot. Like just learning and observing and watching the environment is a really good way in this game to learn how to survive.
Something that I missed a little, but I hope will be the case in the next games is interactions with different clans.
I think that'd be cool, like clan wars.
Yeah. That would have been very interesting. Not only because it would you would
have to manage resources.
There would be competition for different resources, but there would also be the possibility to exchange members for a bigger gene pool, for example.
Well,
and of course fights between groups, stuff like that.
A lot of this game, they didn't really go too into the clan, because gotta be honest, the clan AI is pretty shoddy at times, like 9 times out of 10. Like even on the release.
Yeah, it could be better.
They often like just spawned out of camp where there was like a Macaridus or like a giant snake that was pretty much just eating them, so you had to like spawn in and then go in and rescue them. And often you have to babysit them pretty much. Like if you leave something in their hands, they'll probably for too long they'll die of like starvation or getting dehydrated, which is stupid in my opinion. They should be at least a little bit more advanced to be able to survive without my presence.
Yeah. So I really like some stuff they did, like the clan members can mimic you at some point.
Oh yeah, you have to learn that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You can get them to
Yeah.
make tools and stuff.
Yeah, so that when you pick a stick from a bush, everybody picks a stick, and
Yeah, that is like a
yeah,
lifesaver because if you don't have a stick, they can't defend themselves.
yeah,
And even if they don't kill the animal, it still means they defend themselves and don't get killed instantly. It's just that's actually like a lifesaver.
mm. Also, I really like that your clan members can actually get critical hits
Mm.
and kill wildlife if they get attacked.
I think that's also a thing that you improve. Like the more
Yeah,
they get a higher chance of being able to defend themselves and then being able to get critical hits.
yeah,
Mm. There's just like the progression in this game is just really, really well done. Like you start out like pretty much absolutely terrible, and then you start to get better, and then you get better and better and better, and that's like the general progression of this game. You really feel like even with each evolution, you really feel like you're improving. Like you
mm.
have more life, you have more stamina, you have
Yeah. Except for late game, end
yeah.
game, it's then it dies down a little,
Yeah, I feel like the peak of this
unfortunately.
game is like the mid game, where you're good enough to like, where you know enough of the mechanics, where you're good enough and you're still evolving and changing. But then once you reach the end game, it dies down. It's like a bell curve.
Yeah.
Like you reach
Yeah,
it.
end game doesn't really introduce many more challenges
Hmm.
anymore.
It's kind of like, okay, you're not quite done yet. You just need to do a few of these few evolutionary feats that are littered around the map that you just haven't done.
Yeah,
So go and run around and do them, and then you'll be able to evolve.
yeah, and that makes basically the last evolution not as satisfying,
Yeah, you just feel like
I
you've
think,
just
as it could be.
like even in this playthrough that I did, the latest one, I was just like, I don't care. I'm just gonna breed a bunch of baby apes because that's the easiest way to evolve in the late game. Because a lot of the feats are probably already done, so
Yeah,
it's like, and the other ones are like really finicky. Like make this 5 times, or go kill this obscure animal on the other side.
yeah. Or if you can't remember if you killed that rhino already, or if you have already
Oh,
frightened it, or
that's another thing. The only time you can check your evolution menu is when you're sleeping on a bed, and that's really annoying if you want to quickly check. Like, if I haven't done this feat, have I done this feat? Oh, I'm gonna have to go all the way back to my last oasis and then check.
yeah.
I thought that was stupid. That just stretches out the game and just it's like the quality of life is just ugh. Why would you make that kind of decision?
Yeah, but still, I think it's. I mean, considering that there were only 40 people,
Mm,
it's quite impressive what they got done.
it is well made. I just mean like some of the
Yeah.
design decisions were a bit.
I mean, also there are next to no glitches or bugs.
Speaking of glitches on this video, there's like a floating ape. I remember that. That was hilarious. Yeah, the game on
Yeah,
release was actually not too bad. There was obviously a few bugs, but a lot of games have
yeah.
that today. I don't know why.
I mean, there's much worse
Yeah, it's sad that
stuff out there.
there's a lot of games coming out today that just come out so buggy. Like it never used to be
Yeah,
like that when the internet wasn't really a thing, which was really sad. I kind of miss that.
yeah. I also feel like they didn't really double check everything.
Mm.
Um,
At least you're able to update it through time. You should be able to play a game pretty good.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, the goal should be that you don't have to update it.
That should be the goal.
That doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
Mm.
The
It's
goal
more
for
like,
any game
at
should
least we
be,
meet the deadline.
yeah,
It's more
it's
that
sad.
mentality.
It should be they're shipping out a game, a full game,
With as
but
little
Yeah,
bugs
they
as
can
possible.
update it later on with additions, making
not
it
fixes.
not
Yeah.
fixes. It should be the complete game, just like add on to the story or the experience or whatever.
Yeah.
Not just to fix bugs everywhere.
Yeah. A few little bugs or so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all right. But
That's
if
totally fair enough.
I mean, everybody is probably thinking the same here. Mass Effect Andromeda.
I mean, I'd rather them put out a game if it has any bugs, fix them as soon as possible.
Mm,
Yeah.
But if they're withholding content from a game
mm.
to release later on as an update or DLC or something that's just like it's sad.
I can understand if it's like not
Yeah.
finished or something, but like I feel like the game should at least be able to be playable with as few bugs as possible when you buy it, because that's when most of the people are going to play it anyway. The first few hours, unless it's like one of those games like Planet Zoo or something where you can just kind of just play as much as you want.
Yeah. It has no end.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
I
say
mean,
I wouldn't say most people are going to be playing it the few hours. It's few first days and weeks.
Yeah.
If it's a good enough game, and I don't think that Ancestors Becoming Human was that good of a game, personally.
Fair enough.
yeah. I mean, it's not a game for everyone, certainly.
It's definitely niche, and it's definitely
Yeah.
trying. And I do applaud it for trying something new because there's not
Oh
really
yeah.
been a game like this before. Like the survival elements, usually they have menus and stuff. It was just really trying to learn from like the bottom up with like as minimal tutorials as possible. Was really
Yeah.
like a shot in the dark, and it had some hits and it had some misses.
I personally think it had more misses than it did hits.
I personally agree, but at least they made the progression of
They
it
tr-
as you learn. It does feel good to be able to learn how to make a tool and then be able to do this and then
Yeah.
be able to do that and then be able to do this.
Yeah. I feel like the developers themselves learned quite a bit with this game, and I'm very much looking forward what they will
Definitely.
implement in the next one.
It's more of
if
an
anything, exactly. If anything, I applaud them for trying something very different.
especially for a AAA game, because now it's just all shooters and shit.
Not all, but still, I get your
I'm
point.
generalizing, of course.
Extremely.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, this is really a unique game from a, I would say, kind of AAA, because like the guys that have made this game, like Patrice, who's like headlining it, has
One
made
guy.
games, yeah, has made
Only one of them.
Yeah, one of them. I think the rest was
yeah,
quite a few newbies in there too.
definitely, yeah, because he started a whole new
Yeah.
studio. But I mean, like the guy, like the creative director, the guy who basically said
Yeah.
this is my game, has worked
They
on
can
a
ha-
lot of the Assassin's Creed early games,
Mm,
Which ones?
like
the good
like
ones.
Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, like anything before like Black Flag and stuff. I think he left Ubisoft in 2010 to create this game.
Hmm.
So
If he's been working on it for 9 years, that's pretty sad.
well, not like the idea of this game. He's had obviously needed to get the money and the studio and things like that. He basically had
Yeah.
to make this game make everything from scratch, like the people to make it, get the money and stuff like that.
So it's pretty much a passion project.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think like
Yeah.
it definitely did its job in trying to experiment, and there was a lot of hits and a lot of misses, and I think good criticism, will really help in the next game, especially with more complex humans, obviously like Homo bigaster and like Homo erectus. I assume that's where they're gonna go. With
Mm.
more complex hunting, more complex social structures, maybe language. I actually kind of hope they add a bit more of a tutorial, because like, why would I want to relearn how to make stone tools when I already learned it in this game?
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how they will handle early game and really how you start out. That will be quite interesting. Maybe should go to aesthetics and
Yeah, I think aesthetics is a good idea to go to.
yeah.
Well, personally, I really like the graphics. Like, it's not obviously AAA Call of Duty level. Oh my gosh, Far Cry. But considering the team that they had, this is very well made.
Yeah.
There seems to be a bit of contradiction with what you're saying, though. Like, you're saying that they're a AAA team,
Well,
but now you're saying, considering the team that they have, this is very good.
well,
But if they're a AAA team, they should be held
I
to
wouldn't say
higher.
AAA team actually.
I just mean
I
like
wouldn't either.
AAA is they say it's a AAA game. This is like how they marketed it. It's like a AAA. Like
I
it's really hard to explain.
it's far from a AAA game. Just because they have one person who's worked in the AAA studio before as your project lead, it is not a AAA studio because you still don't have this fun. You don't have the large team to make these grandiose games.
Yeah.
Especially, I definitely agree with that. I just mean like that's how it was kind of marketed a little.
Marketing and reality, or
Yeah.
reality
Yeah,
is often
I
disappointing.
understand why they went that route with the marketing. I mean, it's quite effective to do it this way.
Well, obviously, it wasn't
Sure.
made by like a Ubisoft level team with like 600 people and everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it was kind of marketed as such, which is a little bit, I would say, not accurate.
Disingenuous.
Yeah.
It's a little bit misleading.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the perfect way to say it. It was kind of marketed as
Yeah.
such, and then like the team
Yeah.
was probably like a bunch of newbies
Yeah.
straight out of design school.
More than
Well,
likely.
I don't really mind it, but well, I didn't bought it, so
I mean, by going by that logic, look at Prehistoric Kingdom. They're an indie game,
Yeah.
but Matt worked in a AAA studio before, and he. So does that make Prehistoric Kingdom a AAA game?
nah.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. It's the same logic here.
Yeah.
How this game was marketed. That's what kind of.
Yeah. But maybe let's go back to aesthetics
Aesthetics, okay.
before we lose ourselves in these.
Because we could sit here and debate this all night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree with a lot of the points you guys are saying. What do you guys think of aesthetics, like graphics? We'll start with graphics.
Yeah, I know many people criticize it for being rather simple in its look at first, but I don't really mind it. And I think especially later in the game when you go to the woodlands and savannah, it really begins to shine. Yeah, I think the biggest graphical problems appear when you are in the deep jungle and everything is very close to you. So you don't really have these grand views, but a lot of details, and the details aren't always there. So yeah.
I also feel like a lot of the textures are just a bit flat.
It reminds me of games from like the early 2010s, like 2012, 13.
Yeah, surely. I mean, that fits considering how long they were working on that.
I mean, if we're going by what Joe said, that was mostly concept-wise, and they haven't been in development, but
Yeah.
I think they really
5, 6
started
years
about
maybe.
2015. That's when they really started making trailers and rendered footage. And
Which would make sense.
Yeah. But I don't mind it that much. I mean, usually I'm the biggest graphics bitch around, but in this case, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I'm fine with how it looks.
I feel like they didn't go hyper realistic with it, because if they did, that would have made it look like looks like ass. Because clearly they don't have the budget or the manpower to do it. But they definitely did.
Yeah. Also, the problem is sometimes with with the species you're playing, the uncanny valley could have been a real problem.
Definitely, especially with like the Australopithecus, that would have been an issue.
Yes, because it's a very weird mix. In some cases, it's very much human, but some parts of the face are already is still very ape-like. I mean, that's for some people still today a problem when they look at great apes in zoos.
They think, oh, creepy.
Yeah, yeah. I even sometimes have this when I look at especially chimpanzees that so much human but not.
Yeah. I don't find it uncanny. I just find it fascinating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like the graphics definitely aren't like triple A level. Oh my gosh, amazing. But they definitely do fit the style of this game. That's not meant to be hyper real. Because I think
But
if they did do it, it would have been way, obviously would have been way out of their budget, and I think it would have
it
been,
would have.
yeah, and I think it also
But
gets uncanny valley. Well, of course, it could be improved. Everything
possibly. But the thing is, you're saying that the graphics match this game's art style. The graphics define the art style. If the graphics were improved, then they would fit the game's art style because
Yeah.
they
Well,
would just work with
maybe
better,
they
making
will
better.
produce a 10-year anniversary edition or something.
No, please don't.
I don't think they will. I don't know if this game actually got like a lot of the support to really warrant something like that.
No, I don't think so. I don't think people will be talking about it as much as, say,
Red Dead or something.
Red Dead Redemption, or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be talking about it that much 10 years from now. It'll be
No,
another.
I don't think so either.
I truly believe
I
that.
do definitely hope that they do complete the trilogy that Patrice has thought out. I think
More than likely feel like they will. Man, no.
because this
Yeah.
game was successful at least, like in making enough
Yeah.
money.
Or at least make it into a two-parter. I could also see it working in two parts.
I think you could probably just go from like in the second game, if they wanted to do two, you could just go from
Yeah. It depends on how far they want to go in the second game.
Because I feel like they already covered so much in this first game already.
Yeah.
Like they've covered like probably like 60% of human history just in this game. I feel.
Yeah, from now on it becomes much more cultural
That'd be a
in a
fun
way.
thing to explore.
Less changes in your physiology and more changes in what you do and what you do. How you do it. Yeah. Which could be very interesting for gameplay, certainly.
Definitely. But one thing, like, I really like the music of this game, and I feel like they used like a really old technique that I don't see in a lot of games anymore, where they have the same chord regression or progression every time they have like an achievement or something. Like, if you die, they give you like a really deep, like, it sets the mood. Like when you achieve something, it goes and like it's really upbeat and like yeah you did it, and then when you die, it's like boom 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 and very deep. Like, oh, you feel it feels like a very old style game, like something from the late 2000s, early 2010s kind of feel instead of like a just random music. Feels like there's like a theme to the music, which I quite enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, also like I think they used quite a few native African instruments too, so it really fits into that. I think the simplicity in the soundtrack is maybe also a little bit because of budget constraints. But I absolutely don't mind. And I see similar stuff like in Assassin's Creed games, for example, where they also have often a central theme in their music that will be used over and over again in different moods.
That was definitely done in Ancestors. I think the technical term is a chord progression.
Yeah, I don't know music, so yeah.
Just different ways just to invoke a different mood. Like obviously, if it's dark
Yeah.
and deep, you've done something wrong. If it's upbeat, you've achieved something.
Yeah.
Which that personally I really enjoyed. And what else would be this? Aesthetics, music, graphics. What else would there be in aesthetics?
Colors.
Yeah, they did like a. I really like how they distinguish each environment with the colors.
Yeah.
Like the.
Even when you go from the savannah to the coast, you the light changes and everything becomes more pale. Everything. That's really well done. So they don't really have a lot of big waves or something, but it clearly feels distinct from the lake, for example.
Like in the beginning, you start out in the jungle where it's like dark and green and trees everywhere, and then you just gradually go into more open areas, and then eventually you reach obviously the ocean, which is probably the most open
Yeah.
area in the game. I think like that kind of progression also really fits well with the progression of your ape, because like usually like Ardipithecus, which is like the third evolution in this game, was believed to be a woodland species, like living in more open woodland, kind of like some chimps do today. So I think
Yeah.
like the map was kind of designed as it, like you start off really in the jungle, and then you eventually get better. You move down to the woodlands, and then you move down to the desert as you become the Australopithecines, and then that's where you really start to use more of your ability, because obviously as you go further, you get faster, you get bipedalism, you get better able at moving and more health. So I think that
Yeah.
really helps.
Being not on two legs makes living in the savannah really tricky.
It's not possible.
I mean, we didn't talk about this in gameplay, but I think it's a really well decision they made that the camera angle changes when you begin to walk on two legs, so that it really gives you a better overview of your surroundings.
Well, that's a really good thing. Like the camera angles, it was sometimes really weird at points. Like you could tell it was a console port because with how the camera was, it's sometimes like really too into the action. Sometimes it's like at a really odd place. Like it's not like directly behind you.
Yeah.
Like, and here in the video, it's like a really odd, like over the shoulder one that just looks really. Don't like it. And plus, most of the game, you just look at your ape's ass. That's like 90% of the game.
That's why I always pick the female apes.
Oh no.
No. Oh, we lost Grug.
Damn. Grug not into it. This is so sad.
Too much ape talk.
Yeah. Well,
Probably.
What else would I include? Well, we already talked about.
I think we can go to credibility.
Credibility. Well, a lot of very generally, this game is quite credible, considering Patrice and his people did quite a lot of research. They really did a lot of research. And some things are like kind of weirdly purposefully not accurate, like the giant centipedes. That's the only one I can think of.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's the lower graphics quality helps because it becomes more metaphorical through that.
I feel like they also just did that because they created like something for the snakes, and they didn't just want to make a fourth snake.
Yeah, maybe. Hard to tell without knowing the developers. Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, the size, the scaling of the animals to each other is quite on point.
I feel like a lot of people also small person.
Yeah.
Like even I think the biggest one would probably been Afarensis. Got no taller than 5'3", a big male. So I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are really kind of skewed because they think these are like 6 foot plus apes, but they're not.
Yeah.
And one thing like some of the what was odd was some of the decisions like in terms of the genus like Macarodus is actually Amphimacarodus.
Now, actually, I looked that up, and there was a species of macaroni from Africa
Yeah, but I mean like
during that time.
because the one that they had was Macarodus gigantes, but the actual genus of it is
Oh.
Amphimacarodus gigantes, which is from Europe.
Ah, okay.
So I feel like
Yeah.
some of the odd, like in terms of like the names, because obviously names are pretty. It's only a name. Some of the names of
Yeah.
each species are kind of wrong, and this species lived at the wrong time, wrong place. But there was definitely like a Macarodus in Africa. There was definitely
Yeah.
Stegotetrabelodon in Africa. It's just like
Yeah.
the nitty gritty of the genus and the species sometimes is a bit wrong,
Yeah.
but like you can
Yeah.
easily change that.
I also feel like the model of the cat wasn't quite on point,
Mm.
but it's a little bit hard to judge.
I think it's just also just because it's a cat, and cats are very hard to model.
Yes. Yes, that's
Like
true.
in terms of accuracy, it's not that bad. Like if you look at like
Yeah.
Mauricio Anton type reconstructions, it's pretty spot on.
Yeah. Oh, I wish they had Mauricio Antone
Oh, that would have been cool.
on that game as a
Concept artist.
yeah.
Even then, I think they still did a pretty good job with a lot of the creatures.
Oh yeah.
Other
Yeah.
than
I
species
mean
they
my
replaced.
my biggest criticism is still that I would have loved to see one or two more creatures that stand a little bit out more
Mm.
as being really
I
uh,
would have really liked to see
truly
like a
ancient.
Calicathea. That would have been cool.
Yes.
Or a giant
Yeah.
ostrich.
Yeah. Ostriches would have been
I
nice.
like
Yeah.
I
Giant
appreciate.
ostriches.
Yeah. I do really appreciate some of the species they did have here and there though, like the
Yeah.
Epihydron, the Miocene otter. That
Yes.
was a really cool one, and also Stegotetrabelodon. Because like
Yeah.
a lot of the really
I
early
think that's the
ones.
first time this species is in any kind of um, paleo media.
Because I remember the original, like the really really original concepts and stuff. It was just like a normal African elephant model.
Yeah.
So I think they really changed it up, and I thought that was a really good way of doing it.
Yeah.
And a lot of
I think the animations were sometimes a little bit um yeah, how to say it?
wonky.
A bit clunky.
Yeah.
Maybe for the larger animals, for the buffalo, um,
I feel like
the hippo,
yeah.
and the elephant. I think the rhino was pretty good, although I also would have liked to see it a little bit different from a modern white rhino.
To be fair, the Miocene white rhino, the species it was like near my was like it was just a really basal rhino because like the genus itself
Yeah,
is a very old genus.
yeah. Ah, well, this is very much nitpicking.
It's
It's-
very nitpicky, but like in
yeah,
accuracy,
well,
it's
somebody has to do it.
in terms of accuracy, it's pretty good. Like
Yeah,
especially for made by people that aren't really too into the nitty gritty of paleontology and
yeah,
anthropology.
yeah,
Like guys have just done their research for a game. Very
yeah.
generally, it's good.
I don't feel like they had people really helping with the
Mm.
academic part.
I knew they had like a
Yeah.
couple interviews where they had like a meet an anthropologist and then meet an athletes and stuff, but I'm not sure how many of them actually consulted on the game.
Yeah, that's a question.
Mm.
I mean, it also, of course, you need money for that.
Mm.
Yeah. If they didn't,
Even better.
damn, well done. Still, I
They
mean,
clearly did do their research, and even at the points
yeah,
where they did like skew with reality a little bit was done in service of the gameplay, like with you
yeah,
having to evolve being bipedal, not just getting it.
yeah.
Because obviously we all know like
Also, I really, I think the only thing that really about the species you're playing, the only thing I would criticize is that while the facial features change, your feet don't change. And then that's something very, very important actually in our evolution, where we basically lose our foot thumb and no longer can grasp with it,
you could
and
definitely
instead really have
you definitely notice it in the later Australopithecines. They have
yeah.
very human-like feet.
Yeah, I mean Ardipithecus, it fits still at this point, but I think beyond Ardipithecus, it should have been
Yeah, I feel like that
more
might just
human.
be an animation issue, or they just maybe just forgot it. It's pretty minor, but like
Yeah,
it's very important, but also pretty minor.
yeah. Everybody, of course, has different uh, uh, competences and views on this.
I'm
Yeah.
just really glad like it did well. Like
Oh yeah.
it wasn't like an incredible blowout game. A lot of the reviews of it were really like, ugh, this was frustrating. But from what I've seen, it done okay. At least it shows that there's enough that want
Yeah.
a sequel.
I mean, I didn't play it, but I really enjoyed watching it. Yeah.
It's really one of those games that is really fun to play by yourself or play with friends while you talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely like there's a learning curve to it. And once you
A
start getting,
massive learning curve, definitely. Yeah. Multiplayer would have been interesting.
that would have been fun. Like you could make your own
Yeah.
clan. Like in terms of accuracy, like
Yeah. Also, if you don't really start in your all in one clan, but everybody starts at a different point on the map, and everybody has to build up their own clan, that would have been very interesting.
definitely. Or even
Yeah.
with like
Maybe on servers like max 4 people.
I think what would be really cool is that in like the next game where you're playing as like Homo Gaster and Rectus and things like that,
Yes. Then it would make even more sense.
multiplayer would be really cool if you want to do like complex hunting, because I feel like that's going to really need to be
Yeah.
developed for the next game.
Yeah.
Because you'll be able to use stone tools and you'll be able to use fire,
Hmm.
and then you have like more complex language.
Yeah. What they will do in terms of language will be very interesting.
Really interesting to see how they do that.
Hmm.
I think we're going more into thoughts and opinions now because I think we've talked all about we can about the Odyssey.
Yeah. Yeah. Also in terms of what maps they will choose.
I think they will try and expand it and make it a little bigger.
Yeah.
I really hope
Yeah,
that
I also think they will need to make it bigger because now you are from the start bipedal. You can move quicker and look further. So making the map
I feel like
25% bigger should be in it.
I think what they're gonna do is actually have like multiple maps. This is what I think they'll do because since you're moving around the world,
Hmm.
like as you progress, you'll be moving to different areas in the world. Like, let's say you have like a big savannah map the size of the map that we have now. You play as
Yeah.
Homo Gaster, and then you play around in there. Then once you do all the achievements and stuff in there, we'll get enough, evolve further enough, you become Homo Homo erectus, and then move out of into Indonesia or somewhere in Asia or Europe. I feel like
Yeah.
that would be really fun. that's basically what Homo ergaster was the start of.
Yeah. Although, I mean, there are this new studies that show that Homo habilis, or a close relative, probably moved out of Africa and evolved into Homo floresiensis.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. It
Which
would be really interesting if we would meet different human species
I think it'd be really cool if,
during.
like, as like a callback to this game, play as like a Homo floresiensis.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool if they had like a map, like themed maps. Like you could have like a African map that you play as Ergaster,
Mm,
an Asian map you play as Erectus, like
yeah.
European map you play
That's
as.
also something I missed a little bit about this game. Having, for example, Paranthropus
Hmm.
in it, not as a playable, but as another human species.
Well, at least Australopithecus afarensis has been like lumped into Palanthropus, at least. So that's like the closest.
Yeah, but I mean, it's quite different.
Hmm.
Very very robust
I
with
think that'd be really
huge.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like especially when you're playing as like, because I think there is evidence of Homo erectus like hunting Palanthropus.
Oh really?
I think there is. I've heard a lot about it. I haven't read a paper or anything, so to take that with a grain of salt. But that would be really cool to see.
Mm,
Like being able to like hunt relatives. Like you see like other places the human lineage has gone.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential.
mm, though I am
Maybe
curious.
for a DLC.
Mm, this is a lot of really interesting human species past this point, because that's when we really started to diverge.
Yeah.
Like once we became Australopithecines, we started to become more species. Like there was a Mendus, and then there's like
Yeah.
some really
I
cool
mean,
species. But
when we look at the new paper that came out today, the game should start in southern Germany, actually, and we would progress
Africa.
to Africa. So there's so much.
What if it'd be really cool if like independently a lot of lineages evolved bipedalism?
Yeah, of course, that's of course also a possibility. I mean, we see it in our own family that were quite a few
Mm,
lineages that just didn't make it,
like Orion.
even
Orion.
before the split of Homo, before the common ancestor of Homo
Mm,
sapiens and Homo neanderthalensis.
Even
So
Orion was like suspected to be bipedal.
yeah, or Sahelanthropus could also be of a completely different lineage.
Mm. That's just
Yeah,
more of
we
we don't know, so we want to make
yeah,
a game.
a
So
lot.
yeah. I don't think this game might not hold up in the next 10, 15 years just because of how
No, very very likely not.
much the science of human evolution is
Yeah,
changing, like almost
yeah. I
constantly.
mean, especially in paleoanthropology, there are so many different opinions
Mm,
too, so many pet theories. I
mm,
mean, there were also people who said, why do we end with Homo ergaster? Why not Homo habilis?
mm,
And there are people who say, no, Homo habilis actually never evolved into our ancestors, but was its own little thing
mm.
with Homo floresiensis and so on. So
So it is really weird to think that Homo habilis could have been sister to Floresiensis.
yeah.
Think there must have
This
been
would
a
mean that there's a whole bunch of potential species we don't know about that moved out of Africa before
mm.
Homo erectus
The thing is like, is it because
and
of
still
like,
left basically no traces so far.
I mean, like, is it because of the
Yeah.
morphology? Is it like just really basal, or did it secondarily re-evolve some of these traits? Is the thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we see that in quite a few island dwarfs that they have features that are on the one hand more juvenile,
but also more.
but at the same time it's they are also older. Oftentimes because we basically grow through our evolution again during ontogeny. Oftentimes,
Because that's like the easiest way to become a dwarf, just not stay a baby.
yeah, just not growing up.
Plus, like a lot of the Flores is obviously an island, tropical island, so I think like having at least being able to climb a bit better would have been something that would have been selected for, especially in a population like that.
Yeah, yeah. As you say, there will be a lot of changes, a lot of debate over the next years.
At least
I'm
like
very
I
much
think
looking
the
forward to
very
that.
basal, like the very base idea is definitely okay. It's not like we're gonna get something we
Yeah.
evolved from like chimpanzee, evolved from like gorillas or something. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But at least like the gameplay, I think, even though it's very hit or miss, at least keeps it as an interesting game.
Oh, definitely. I'm very much looking forward to the next games they will produce.
Definitely.
Yeah, with all the implications that more derived human species will have. So yeah, also stuff like building more building stuff. I mean, crafting and building is very very minimal in this, but more tools will come with it, and at some point also more structures, not only just walls made out of sticks, but shelter. Shelter will become more important, I guess.
Fire and things like that.
And fire at some point. Oh yes.
Get fire and language and more complex stone tools.
Yeah.
Make like
Fire will be a game changer in the most literal sense. Yeah.
That will be interesting. I will be really
Yeah.
interested to see that. It'll probably be out in the next 5 years or something. It'll take a while.
Potentially. I guess they will be a little bit quicker with the next one because the basics are already there and they have probably a little bit more budget and money now for the next one.
Because it was definitely some sort of success.
Yes.
It was just like
I think for a first game for a studio, it did pretty well.
And I'm really glad it did.
And I think it definitely has its fans.
Like us.
Yes.
I'm still really glad they did at least try something new. Like,
oh yeah.
a lot of the AAA space. I'm not talking counting indies because obviously indie. The AAA space.
Yeah.
Is very like samey. It's like a bunch of different kinds of games just reskinned.
Yeah. I mean the new Call of Duty. I saw the trailer. I never watched that, but I feel like didn't I see that before already? I mean, shooters. There are few shooters that can really add something new.
Oh, definitely. I just mean like in general,
Yeah.
the AAA industry
Yes.
is very kind of like one trick pony-ish. It's either a big multiplayer or a shooting game, or this really tried to do something different, and I applaud that, even though it didn't get it 100% right, because there's a lot of things that I think could be improved, like especially the evolution, because it really makes the end game really, really boring. Like you just kind of want to get to
Yeah.
the next evolution, and then you're like, oh, I got to do all these stupid little evolutionary feats that'll literally.
Yeah, and I can only remember half of them. What I haven't done yet. Yeah, it's a lot of trial and error towards the end. I mean, there's a lot of trial and error in the beginning, but then it's fun because you don't know what will happen,
It's kind of like.
and there's still so much in front of. Yeah.
It's a very particular kind of game for a very particular kind of person. If you want something that is just gonna be turn off your brain, listen to music while you're doing it, this is not the game for you. You're gonna
Yeah,
have to seriously
while you slaughter zombie hordes.
This is something that you gotta think about. This is something that you're gonna fail at is something you got to persist.
Yeah.
And it may not be the style for everyone, but it's
Oh,
definitely,
definitely.
if you want something that's like semi-educational, something that kind of, because always human history is always fascinated, like human evolution has fascinated a lot of people forever, including myself, just to think, like to answer the question, how did we become the way we are? And I feel like
Yeah.
this is the game, like trying to at least tell us or help answer that question in
Yeah.
a fun way that is.
Yeah, it's one of the first games that tries to show that, and it's the first game I think that decently succeeds in it to portray evolution, but also make it fun for at least for some people.
At least like in a human evolution way, because like I'm not sure
Yeah.
you could really make an evolution game out of something that's not human just because there's not the interest there.
Yeah. Yeah. It becomes much more difficult
But at least with human evolution,
without
the progression is a lot more normal. Like you could see the
yeah,
evolution.
otherwise you usually these games otherwise go into the spore direction,
Yeah.
you might say, where it's more ontogeny than evolution, or rather say Pokemon direction.
I feel like this game did do a good job at representing evolution in a realistic
Yes.
way, and that a lot of people hopefully enjoyed, just because of.
Oh yeah.
Though I do enjoy like a lot of the animals. I feel like the animal AI as well was a bit lacking. A lot of them are pretty
Yeah,
basic.
but I think it was okay still.
The
There's
animals
much
weren't meant to
worse
be.
example out there.
Yeah, the animals weren't meant to be incredibly complex. Like they're only there to like get an achievement and fill out the map.
Yeah.
I hope like once hunting becomes a thing, they become more complex.
Yeah.
Because like if you did
Should be.
because if you did like a if you like as a group you had to organize yourself to help hunt a herd of antelope, that would be like a really engaging gameplay.
Mm.
Like that's something that you learn, like learn how to hunt, learn how to make fire, learn how to make more complex stone tools.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah. I think that concludes it.
I think we're done, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've just about finished recording. See how long we've been. Probably no more than an hour or two. Okay. Well, this has been us. Hope you subscribed and enjoy this. Leave a like and do whatever you want. See you. Bye.
Mm-hmm.